So today we're going to run through relatively quickly some tips on technology, on ideas, on safety of your staff and that kind of thing. Working from home, which is pretty much what everyone is doing now, and if they're not already, then they will be very soon. Okay, so let's start with the good news. Working from home, for those of you that have already worked from home, you'll know that your focus is actually really good. You can get quite a lot done. Not necessarily when you've got children in the background, but you can focus really well. So let's make the most of that. The time can be flexible, which can be really beneficial in our sector when you're working with people from all over the world. And environmental impact, obviously there's no commuting, no driving, and you probably saw the pictures of pollution from China and how that reduced, so that's good news. And we have lower travel costs, so that's a bit of good news for you. I thought we'd start with a bit of positivity. Okay, now the main concerns when you're leading a team, particularly from home, and this would apply outside of the virus time as well, but it's a good question of trust in your team that they're going to be working, good communication between everybody, and keeping everybody engaged and motivated, which is particularly difficult at the moment. Okay, so we're going to address a lot of these first. So firstly, keep cyber safe. Not everyone has a private network at home, and it's worth reducing the points of vulnerability for all of your data. GDPR has taught us a few lessons on this. If you can try and keep everything in one cloud-based secure place, don't keep everything in email boxes, share the information, don't save everything onto your laptop or computer hard drive. Make sure you can collaborate with your colleagues and partners. And a virtual private network, if you don't already have one, there are a few logos on the right there. They're pretty cheap. They only cost about $2 to $4 per month to have. And your team can dial into this private network and access your data. Now, we're not really going to cafes and things to work at the moment, so it's not a massive problem, but it's definitely worth considering. You can also use a secure remote access method like Microsoft RD Web or Citrix, which allow you to share an application that's running on your server, if that's where it is. Don't forget that all laptops and remote equipment need to have their passwords changed regularly. We got a timely reminder from Mr. Stephen Roberts earlier, so don't forget to change passwords and keep them as secure as possible. And obviously don't lose the laptop anywhere if you are out and about. So just some basic security. Keeping staff safe. Unfortunately, we can't keep them all safe from the virus. We don't know how it's spreading, but follow the guidelines that you're given. Do they have the right equipment? So in a moment, we will look at how to keep them safe working at home. And in safe, I mean things like, are we protecting their backs and their posture? Do they have a space with no distractions? They may not do if they have, you know, no set place they can keep to themselves, but try and help them come up with a solution there. And what support do they need? Some people are quite used to working from home. Some people need more support than others. Ask them what support they need and offer it. Don't be afraid to offer it, and don't be afraid to ask for it either. Okay. So we're going to have some downloads for you as well. So we're going to give you the link in a moment. But when you're working from home, for your staff, this is the way that your home office setup should look. And again, don't forget, we're going to be sharing this information as well. So you should have a supportive chair, for example. Sit upright, and the top of your screen should be eye level, and your feet should be relaxed and flat onto the floor. If you have a high table, you might need to use a footstool or some books, and your forearms should rest on the desk parallel to the knees and the wrists relaxed. And this will stop you getting, it's called scoliosis, I think it is, and bad neck and back problems. So check in with your staff and see if they are following these guidelines. And we also will have, this is just you don't have to worry about this, this is downloadable. The link is up there, but we will be publicising that link anyway. But that's something that you can send out to your staff if that's useful. So what type of table to use, or an ironing board. I've seen lots of people using ironing boards because you can change the height. So do some work standing up, some sitting down, take regular breaks. Use a supportive chair or one of those massive bouncy balls from the gym. And if you've got a desktop, that's fine. If it's a laptop, try and get another screen or another keyboard, and definitely use a mouse that's not on your laptop itself, and that will help your physical setup. And I've gathered this advice from a company called Lavender Osteopathy that have been really helpful with some of the groups that I'm in. You can download this later. Trust. I think trust is actually quite high at the moment. We know that our teams are worried, and we know that everyone's pulling together, and a lot of the information that I've heard has been about teams just going above and beyond what is expected. So don't forget that trust goes two ways. So not only do you have to trust that they are doing their work at home, they are trusting that you have their backs and that you're doing everything you can to enable them to do their work from home. So if they need, for example, a mouse for their keyboard, or if they need an extra screen, are you supplying that? Have you given them all the information that they need? Trust quite generally with remote teams that we've helped set up before. We work particularly with sales teams, which is quite goal orientated, so it's quite clear whether people are doing the work and hitting targets and that kind of thing. But for all of your staff, focus on the outcomes that you want rather than the time spent doing it. So for example, if it's someone that's in charge of your social media, do they have a certain number of posts that they need to put up? If it's someone working with your cancellations, do they have a certain number they need to get through? And if it is someone in sales, what are they going to do with your agent partners or any direct inquiries that may still be coming in? What are the actual outcomes that you want there? So be really, really clear on what you're expecting, and gather feedback and help them with any problems that they may have. And give them a plan. It's really good to have a plan. I quite like having a plan, I've got to say. I like a list, and I like working through it. Now, the point of a plan is that they know what they're doing each day, and that can really help with their mental health as well as their performance. And we need them to be ticking things off their list, because that makes them feel good. When they've achieved one of the outcomes that you've asked them to achieve, say well done, recognise it, and move on with the next plan. If you don't have a plan, you need to establish one. The roles might have changed slightly. If they were in the school normally, their role will have changed if they're now working from home. So what is the plan for them? What are you expecting them to do? And also establish reporting lines and times. So for example, you may have a daily check-in time. You may have a sales meeting. You may have an operations meeting. Obviously you'll have board meetings. What time is this happening? Try and make them regular. Give people a structure to their day. And who reports to who? Is it all coming in over group email? Are there too many people being CC'd in? We love that one. Okay, so make sure your reporting lines are still super clear. Communication. We're all actually very good communicators, because that's what we do for a living, right? We teach people languages and how to communicate. So, but I'm just going to touch on a few ways that you can improve this. So as I said at the beginning, StudyTravel Network is a great way to communicate with the entire community, both agents and schools alike. I have had a look recently. A lot of you haven't still put up company information and even photos and documents. It's a great place to do it. It's all free, and so many people are up there, it would be a bit daft not to. So if you have someone who doesn't know what their role is at the moment, perhaps that's something they could be doing. Create yourself a bonding space, which all sounds very fluffy, but it's really important. So, for example, we had an industry pub quiz on Friday, and we had about 25-30 people turn up, and it was just good fun, and cheered everybody up. And you can do that within your teams as well. So create a space where you can bond. You could consider doing quite radical things like a book club, or you could give them business books, for example, to read, and they can share their learnings from it. You can give them courses to follow to increase their learning. You could have a group exercise session. I don't think I'll be doing that at StudyTravel, but anyway, you could do group yoga. There's so many free things going on at the moment. You could all show what you're cooking for lunch, whatever it is. Create a bonding space, because that's one of the first things that you'll miss from working in an office or a school. And reach out often. I would make it short if possible, but make sure the door is open if someone does need to talk. One of my colleagues said that she hadn't opened her mouth in about 48 hours, apart from to eat, and hadn't talked to anyone. So make sure they have time and space to do that. Communicate universally, and by that I mean what you need to do is make sure that if a decision is made, so that might be a cancellation policy or whatever it might be, make sure everyone that needs to know knows, however you're going to share that. Be inclusive. So you may have some people that don't want to take part in, I don't know, the group exercise session or whatever it is. So make sure they're included in something else. And even have a checklist of your staff and make sure they have been included in whatever it is that you're doing. Share the fun, obvious, and keep the balance. I know that we have a lot of stress upon us at the moment, but a lot of people are working from home with their children now, and partners and dogs and whatever else it might be, and they do have to balance that work and life. So if we focus on the outcomes that have to be achieved that day or that week, then they can maintain the balance. Okay, do we have any questions so far? Are we all good?
No questions yet.
Engagement and motivation. Okay, so like I've said, clarity is really important when you're communicating. Be very, very careful of your tone. Email tone is notoriously misunderstood, and one person's way of communicating isn't someone else's. So just be a bit aware. So over egg the niceness and kindness if you can, because people are more sensitive at this point. It's common sense, really. So don't forget your pleases and thank yous, as my mum would say. Communicate the plan. Everyone will know that the plan will change regularly. Reduce frustration, understand that they might be frustrated, but be as clear as you possibly can on a daily basis. Structure. When you're working from home, structure could be very reassuring. Otherwise, probably what you'll find is, for example, sleep patterns get knocked out. If you're having a nap in the day, suddenly you won't be able to sleep, or you'll be up early, and it kind of gets you out of sync. You can offer time tracking tools if they want. I'm a big fan of this anyway, to see what I'm doing with my day, particularly when I'm working from home, or if I'm developing another business. I use Clockify, and it's really just a timer app. It's all free, and you can write down what you've been doing and how long you've been doing it for, to see what's happening with your day, and that will help you see how productive you're being. You can use this whether you're in the office or not in the office. Chunk your time into groups of tasks. So, for example, if you have a load of cancellations to do, get through all of those first. If you've got internal meetings to do, have those, and then action them at the same time. So try and chunk all your tasks, if at all possible, into time groups, and that will just make you a bit more effective at what you're doing. We do have a handout in a moment as well. SMART goals. You're probably already familiar with SMART goals. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. And this can be useful literally for anything. It could be for training for a marathon, or drinking enough water, or work even. So whatever your goal is, make it specific. So it could be, we're going to keep in touch with 10 of our partners each day. We're going to try and have a phone call with them. And we're going to measure that by keeping a tally, for example. Is it doable? Yes, it's attainable, so that's fine. Is it relevant? So it's got to be relevant to your overall goal, which might well be, in this instance, maintaining contact with your partners and sharing information there. And time bound, make sure you've got a start and an end time. So it might be daily. Daily you call 10 partners, for example, or 10 customers. And support your suppliers as well. Don't forget, it's not just the money coming in, but your money going out. It's worth getting in touch with your suppliers if that's one of your tasks. Okay, so let's see what we can do. Can they give you a payment holiday, or are you still supporting them through this? Tools. So there are so many tools. I have done a whole webinar before on just communication tools. We obviously have good old email. That's how most people do it. WhatsApp, chat groups, that kind of thing. Whatever is working efficiently for you is good. But if you wanted to introduce a new tool, you could try something like Slack or Microsoft Teams or Google Hangouts. They all work well. I know companies, multinational companies, that use Slack really effectively. Teams has become really popular now. And it depends whether you're a Microsoft kind of person or whatever it might be. Slack, for example, I like to use because it has so many plugins to it. So you can add in extras like Trello or TimeCamp or Asana. So you can use different things within it. But if you're introducing a new tool to make remote communication easier, obviously have a play around with it and get to grips yourself, and then have a group training session on how you want it used. Okay, and make sure they have all the necessary access, which I know sounds like a no-brainer, but just in case. So do they have a secure connection using a VPN, for example, to your CRM or to your documents? Where are they held? Are they easily named? Or do they have some sort of weird name? Make sure it's really easy for them to find their way around. And make use of social platforms like the StudyTravel Network to keep in touch, update your profiles, and prepare for when this passes, because it will pass. And then we need to be ready for the huge influx of bookings that we're all going to be getting. But things will change and it will be tricky. So use every tool that you have in the toolbox to get yourself ready for the next step. So it can be used for now to communicate and let everybody know what's happening now, but also be ready for what's going to happen afterwards. So set up your network, start chatting to people, use the platform. There's loads of information on there as well. So if you were looking at particular markets, our statistics are brilliant. Go and have a look at those. Go and learn a bit more about the sector that we're in that you can use later. All knowledge is useful.
Nick, can you hear me?
Okay, motivation. I am not going to get you to do loads of star jumps at this point, so you'll be glad to hear. So everyone is worried. And the reason that's first is because you need to come at it from a kindness perspective. Everyone is worried. So understand that first and don't be glib about it. Honesty works well. If you don't know what's happening in your company, you don't know whether you're going to have reduced hours or fewer classrooms, you need to communicate this really well. Listen to ideas. This is a great time for people to brainstorm and come up with new ideas. Do you have a space for people to share those ideas? It could be a specific Zoom session with your team on idea sharing. Anything goes there. Someone needs to moderate it quite well, and then they can be developed a bit further if they've got some goodies. and be grateful for the good things. So for an example, actually, is this PowerPoint. So I sent some very raw text off to Sam and Sarah back in StudyTravel Towers, and they came up with this beautiful PowerPoint with me and developed the handouts that you'll see when you download the documents. And they did it really quickly and really, really well. And hats off to them. So just be grateful for things like that, and promote well-being. So if you have any yoga classes or book clubs or whatever it might be, then introduce those. I'm just turning my volume up. Ash, you said you've got some questions. Let's see if I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. We have a question from Abby, which I think is quite a good one. She said, how can we best make it known when we're available working? Our hours have been reduced to 50%, but as we have no shared physical workspace to walk out of, it feels as though we're actually available 24/7. Have you got any suggestions? I second that.
It's really easy just to let work kind of go on and on and on. And again, focusing on hours, I understand if you're paid hourly that's going to be a worry. I would recommend using Clockify or Toggle to track what work you're doing, for how long, and then you can share that. You can extract the information from Clockify and Toggle, I believe, so that into an Excel file, I believe. So you can show what you've been working on, and know that you're keeping up with your hours. So that's what I'd recommend, if that's helpful.
Okay. I have another one.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the tools that you suggested using, like MS Teams and Slack and even Zoom, if your office has been thrown into all working from home, like a lot of us have been, how do you suggest ways that you can instigate change and try and getting the whole office to adopt using new ways of communicating that they might not be used to, or sort of building support from your colleagues to do stuff to make change like that?
I think it would depend on which platform you're going to use. Zoom, like this, for example, is really simple to use. And actually you can use it like I am here to share your screen and teach people how to use things like Slack. So Zoom, I think, or there are several like it, but I just prefer Zoom, would be the first thing I would get people used to. So get them used to having meetings on Zoom, chatting, sharing their own screens and that kind of thing on Zoom. I would only ever introduce one new thing at a time. Don't just load, Zoom, Slack, Trello, Asana on everyone all at the same time. It's going to freak them out. But be very sure of which one you're going to use first. And just be aware of it, have a play around with it. If email is working at the moment and everyone is doing what they're supposed to be doing, using email to communicate or WhatsApp groups, that's fine as long as everyone's included. But whoever is best at training your teams, get them onto Zoom and show people how to use it.
That's for now.
Okay, I will move on. Good questions, guys. Thank you. Okay, home working daily structure. I used to be a real faffer, if I'm going to be honest. I would juggle a million plates at the same time and have loads of windows open. And since I've been with No Fluff and StudyTravel and working with lots of clients, I've had to become a lot more organised pretty quickly. So I have to have a routine in my daily life. It's going to mess up occasionally because obviously the dog will bark and the teenagers will want feeding and stuff like that. But try and have a structure if at all possible. Personally, I like to get up early and get myself ready, and I do act as if I'm going to work. So I will get dressed. Does that seem silly? Lots of us work in our PJs when we're working from home, but it doesn't make you feel as professional. So if you've got a job to do, act as if you're going to work. Sort out your workspace, if at all possible. So even if it's half the dining table, make it clear, make it like you would have it at work. And get yourself in the right mindset, and have a list of your daily tasks and goals. Again, you could use an app for this. There are loads of them, or you can just use good old pen and paper, but have a list of your tasks and goals and tick them off when you've done them. That's going to be really good for you to feel like you're achieving something. And have regular breaks. I love the Pomodoro technique. Anyone that I've trained will know I'm a big fan of the Pomodoro technique. There is a lot of information online about it, but the basics are you write down your tasks and you work out roughly how much time each will take. Divide that into half an hours and do one half an hour at a time. So you set a timer. So Pomodoro is Italian for tomato, and it's based on one of those kitchen timers that you turn around that's shaped like a tomato, but you can use your phone or whatever it might be. Set an alarm for 25 minutes, do one task for that 25 minutes, and then make yourself have a 5-minute break. That's even more important when you're working from home in possibly a more uncomfortable environment. So in that 5 minutes, get up and walk to the kitchen and do some shoulder rolls and put the kettle on and then sit back down again. So definitely have regular breaks. Stretch, move, and then reset, get your head back in it, and then the next Pomodoro twist, you do your next task. Okay? And communicate what you're doing with everybody so that they know, and have an end time. So even if you have, for example, 2 hours in the morning to do a few tasks, and then you've got to sort the kids out or whatever it might be, and then 2 hours in the afternoon and 2 hours in the evening. So make sure you have a start and an end time and you know what you're doing in that time. Okay, and that will help you get through. And we've got this, which ladies at StudyTravel have produced beautifully, I think. It looks awesome. And this will be available to download as well. So again, feel free to share this with all of your colleagues. And it just expands a little bit on what I have already said. Okay, so this is the end of this webinar. I think I was on time. I was aiming for half an hour, which is awesome. You can access all of these resources on the network, and Sam is going to put them up in the company documents. So that will include both the PowerPoint slides itself and the downloads that I showed you briefly. Do we have any questions about helping our teams work effectively from home? Any other questions? No?
No other questions on the group yet.
Okay. Are we all feeling okay? Give me a thumbs up. Good. Well, I hope you found it useful. If questions come to you later, just message me on the network and I'll happily. Okay. Thank you very much for coming, everybody. Have a great day. Keep on top of it. We will get through it.